Hey kids, Mr. and Fly here, hope you're well. Now the last few weeks I've been lucky enough to have not one but two Street Triples in my garage. I've had the 2012 Street Triple R, which is my own bike. I've had it for nearly 5 years now, love it. And I've also got the long-term loaner from Triumph, the Street Triple RS, which is the brand new 2017 model. Now whilst I've got both bikes, I just thought it'd be a great opportunity to do a direct comparison of each machine, both on the road and around and about, just to see some of the things that maybe are slightly better on the older machines versus the new, and what's better on the new versus the old. So stick around and stay tuned for the next few minutes, and this will be my comparison of old versus new. Let's start out by going out on the road. So this little on-road comparison is going to be far from scientific. It's just a bit of fun, really. Just going to compare a few parameters between the two bikes and see how they compare. Please don't take it too seriously. So the first thing then I want to compare between the two bikes is the sound. Now, the Triple just sounds an amazing engine, whatever variant you've got, whether it's on the 1050, whether it's in the Speed Triple, the Tiger, or indeed the Street Triple. So, you know, when I say what's the sound like, they're all good, all the Triumph Triples, but so I'm kind of you know, splitting hairs a little bit here when I talk about the sound here. I think you're just going to let me go. Thank you. So let's listen to the sound of the 2017 machine. Yeah, there's no doubt she sounds absolutely brilliant. The question is, of course, does it sound better than the old 2012 machine? Well, as I said, all triples sound brilliant, but I have to say the 2012 does sound nicer than the 2017. But then of course that is a little bit unfair because I've got the aftermarket cans on here, the arrows, but they were an option when I bought the bike, and that's when I had them fitted. So one up for the 2012. It sounds better than the 2017 if you've got it fitted with the arrow aftermarket cans. Acceleration and power then. Yep, the 2017 bike has plenty of acceleration and power. Now, of course, this bike with the 765cc engine technically has more power on paper than the 2012 bike, but does it actually feel any different? Well, I have to say, it's hard to give the impression on as doing this comparison here, because of course you're not sitting on the bike with me, but the acceleration and the power on the 2012 seems pretty strong to me. There's really not much in it. I think the 2017 has probably got it, but there's really not a lot in it. That difference in engine capacity hasn't made a great deal of odds as far as I'm concerned in terms of how the bike feels from an acceleration and power point of view. So the cornering and handling on the 2017 machine, the new suspension units that have been fitted, the Öhlins rear and the show a big piston upside down forks on the front, have absolutely transformed the handling on this bike. It feels brilliant in the corners, and it's actually a compliant ride as well, quite soft and plush. Let's compare that to the 2012. Well, the Street Triple has always been known as being an excellent handling bike, so you've got to take what I say in the context of that, but I have to say that is the huge difference, Alyssa, that I've noticed between my bike, this the 2012, and the brand new Street Triple RS. The RS just outshines this in the handling stakes all round. It just feels better. You can feel what the wheels are doing better. There's no tendency to tip into the corners like I feel on this bike, although that might just be a problem with how this bike's set up. But now, however I spin it, I have to say the brand new bike handles much sweeter than the older bike. So back on the new bike then, and what about comfort? Well, it's kind of linked in a way to the suspension point we talked about just now. It's got a very plush ride, this bike, so it is inherently quite comfortable, and in fact all street triples are comfortable in the way that you're sat upright and the relationship between handlebars, foot pegs and backside. I guess other than the suspension, the other defining point is the hardness of the seat, and the seat on the 2017 is a little bit hard, and because of the cowl you haven't got a great deal of latitude to move forward and back, so it's fine for me because I'm, you know, not a big bloke, but I think if you're a large chap you might be a little bit crunched up on this bike compared to the 2012. Well, let's just go and jump on the old bike and see how my cheeks react to that one. I have to say it's pretty comfortable. It's got exactly that same riding position. Feels as if you're sitting in exactly the same position as on the new bike. The seat, because you haven't got the cowl, I can move forward and back a lot further, so you've got a bit more room for manoeuvre. If you're a taller person, that might help. And the seat is a little bit softer as well, so you could argue that it's a little bit more comfortable if you're going to tour. That said, out of the box, the suspension's harder on the older Street Triple R. I've adjusted my suspension, made it a little bit softer. So there's not a great deal in it in comfort, I have to say. I guess we'll give it to the 2017 because the suspension is that much more plush. And so then to the last parameter on this road-based comparison. I just want to have a feel for the brakes. Of course, the 2017 bike, which I'm on now, has the stonking Brembo brakes, the M50 Superbike brakes as far as I'm concerned. I'm just going to check there's nothing behind me, and then progressively pull them on. My word, the thing stops like you wouldn't believe. Let's just try it one more time. Yeah, these are stonking brakes. Let's jump on the 2012 and see how they compare in an emergency stop situation. I have to say, the brakes are pretty good on here. They're not in the same league as the 2017 bike. And of course you don't have ABS on here, so there's always that in the back of your mind when you do a hard stop. We'll just try again, nothing behind. Now they're not quite as good. Those Brembos on the new bike certainly do make a noticeable difference. What I would say though, if I just try the back brake, I think the back brake on the older bike has probably got the edge. Not that makes much difference in day-to-day use, but yeah, okay. So you got me there too. Pretty much in every category, the 2017 bike is a much nicer bike to ride. It's in a different league really. Okay, so much for the on-road comparisons then. What about when you get back to your garage or your driveway and you're looking at the bike and enjoying it? What next? Well, let's start with what I think is kind of the elephant in the room, and that's the looks of the bikes. If you compare the biggest change between the older bike and the new bike, of course, is the front end and the change in the lights design. The 2012 has what became known as the Dame Edna lights. These are the sort of pentagonal lights, and this was the first year actually that they were used. Previous to that, it just had two round headlights that some people really loved. And then it's got this little neat cowling as well that sits on top of it. And I think that makes the bike look kind of like an angry wasp. I think it looks really good with those. If we look at the 2017 bike, this now has got the lights the same as you get on the Speed Triple. It's brought it a bit more up to date perhaps. And it's got the air intake at the front of the cowling as well, which is probably a very practical manoeuvre to actually get some air into the bike. So I can understand why Triumph have done that. But for me, I just don't think the thing looks very good. To me, this looks kind of like a pug-nosed Chihuahua. Now, I don't know about you, but you know, if you're going to describe a bike, I want something that looks more like an angry wasp than a pug-nosed Chihuahua. So for me, sorry Triumph, but the design of the front of the bike just doesn't do it for me anymore. So while we're on the subject of design and looks in the evolution of the bike over the years, what is it with the paint scheme that Triumph have come up with on the 2017 machine? I think the old bike looks absolutely fantastic in black and gold. I don't think there's a paint scheme that can beat black and gold, actually. I'm just a bit of an old tart and I love the looks of the black and gold bike. Why on earth didn't Triumph come up with black and gold for the new machine? I think it would look absolutely fantastic in that scheme. Okay, the fit and finish is lovely, but this matte paint just doesn't really work for me. For some reason, I just don't like matte bikes. I like them if they're a bit glossy. Again, I'm just a bit of a magpie and a tart, but you know, I like deep, lustrous paint, and this doesn't give that opportunity. And also, there are just some little touches on this that I think it seems a little bit like maybe Triumph are trying a bit too hard. Things like the rim tape on the wheels, the red rims, things like the stripes on the front mudguard. I just don't think they're necessary, and overall, I don't think the sort of the way the bike looks does it any favours, which is a real shame because from a handling and riding point of view, this thing is an absolute winner.
Okay, we talked a bit about the front end of the bike. What about the back end of the bike? Is the new bike an improvement in that respect? Well, again, sadly, I have to say no. They've made the bike much more Daytona-esque, which is, I guess, is a good thing because the Daytona is a great bike. But I'm just not sure, again, when you do a direct comparison between new and old, that it actually works. Now, of course, the original bike was designed for the high-level exhausts, which were in fashion when this came out, but aren't now. And of course, the handling with a low-slung exhaust is much better. But the bike originally was designed to have a high-level exhaust too, of course, in the case of the Street Triple, and I think they just look good. That plus the light on the back, I think, looks better on the old bike. Let me just move the bikes around, and I'll show you the back ends of the bikes directly on, and you can draw your own conclusions. Okay, here's the two bikes side by side, the back ends. I'll move the camera so you can have a look at each of them closely, but which do you think looks better? So here's the back end of the 2017 bike. Okay, a little unfair because it desperately needs a tail tied in. It's got this hideous hanger on here that, of course, most people would move. So we've got to try and envisage it with this all moved up and tucked up, and then number plate under there. But nonetheless, just you know, have a look at the light and so on. And do you think that looks better than the old one? Let me show you that now. Okay, and here's the 2012 machine. I just think with the high-level exhaust and this rather more chunky rear light, I just think it looks better personally. I know it's a personal taste thing, but for me, the back end on the old bike looks better than the new. Okay, what about cockpit and switchgear? Okay, so here's the 2012 machine. There's no doubt this is a much more basic cockpit. The TFT screen on the new machine knocks this into a cocked hat, no doubt about that. But switchgear, you could argue, maybe is better on this. Okay, again, not as comprehensive as the 2017 bike, but this stuff, you can actually hear it and feel it clicking. You know when you've moved them. They just feel a bit more solid to me. And for balance and comparison purposes, here's the 2017 machine. Switchgear layout is fairly similar, except for the new joystick, of course, and of course the new TFT screen is just brilliant. So you know, there's no way I can spin it. The new bike is definitely better as far as the cockpit's concerned. Okay, whilst we're down here, here's the new underslung exhaust that the 2017 model's got. Again, can't really blame Triumph if you don't like the looks of this. They've got to now because the Euro 4 had this massive underslung airbox, and there's not a lot you can do to make the exhaust look good. So I don't think they've done too bad a job on the exhaust, given you've got to have this big airbox now. But compared to the other machine, don't know, let's have a look. Okay, so these are the exhausts on the older 2012 machine. Now, a little bit unfair because these are aftermarket Arrow cans, but they came as an option on the bike. I bought these at the same time as I bought the bike, and they sound absolutely amazing. But I think the key for me is not so much that they're underslung, but the fact that the bike was designed to have underslung exhaust. So it just works as a sort of homogeneous design for me, slightly better. And these definitely sound better. And on the point of sound, don't take my word for it, let's just do a little static startup test so you can hear the difference in the sound of the two bikes. Not a scientific test, doesn't prove anything, but just out of interest so you can hear what they both sound like. So we'll do the new one first. You have to pull the clutch in, so I'll have to put it back to you. Very nice. Okay, and the same with the old bike. Draw your own conclusions. Okay, so we're pretty much at the end of my comparison, but I thought it was just worth, by way of a summary, just going through what the good points of each bike I think are. So if we start with what I think is better on the old bike, some of the things we've covered. So I think arguably the switchgear, arguably the noise is better. I think the exhaust position and looks, the colour for sure, of course that's easily changed. The rear end I just think is tidier. I think the seat end works better generally. I think the overall looks, I like the, you know, the waspy looks as opposed to the pug nose looks. The lights I prefer on this bike. Really, it just comes down on the new bike, on the old bike, sorry, the better part of the old bike is just the way it looks. It's the aesthetics of the old bike, I believe, are better than the new bike. If we come to the new bike and what's better about that, well, it's actually the things that matter, you could argue. It's the handling. The handling of this bike is stratospherically better than this bike. I need some new tyres on this, and that's going to help things. I'm then going to get the suspension set up, see how close I can get it to this bike. But at the moment, as I stand, this bike just handles fantastically well. The new TFT screen and the electronics, of course, are better. Now, personally, I could live without rider modes. I do like ABS and I do like traction control. This bike is missing that. So if you give me this bike with this engine, this handling, forget the riding modes, but give me ABS and traction control, I'll be a very happy chap if you stuck this paint scheme on it as well. It'd be fantastic. What else about the new bike? The suspension, of course, it's got the exotic suspension. It just feels better. It goes hand in hand with the handling. One thing I haven't mentioned actually is the tyres on this bike. The tyres are definitely better. The feel through the tyres is fantastic. On the old bike, it's got the Pirelli Rosso Corsas. On the new bike, it's got the Pirelli Super Corsas, which are a bit more soft and a bit more sticky. Certainly give you more feel. And in fact, when I change the tyres on this bike, it's going to be for a pair of Super Corsas. What else can I say? Oh, fuel range. I think the fuel range on the new bike is slightly better as well. I've never run this flat, and or out rather, but because it hasn't got a fuel gauge, I don't exactly know how far it will go until it runs out. But I usually refuel this one at about 120 miles. With this one, I'm feeling happy to refuel it at 140, knowing that I've got at least another 20 miles left in the tank. So, so another plus point for the bike there. Okay, so it's clear, you know, you take your choice. It's just my opinion. I'm sure this this video is going to get all sorts of angry comments, but you may well disagree with everything I've said. But that's my view on how the two bikes compare. So I hope that's been of some interest to you, and I look forward to speaking to you next time. Until then, this has been the Missenden Flyer. Cheerio.